Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, September 18th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Washington game in 9 days, the game against Michigan in 72 days. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the Ohio State defense with our buddy, Buckeye Huddle's X's and O's guru, Ross Fulton. And when Ross is on the show, we are sponsored by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. All right, Ross, we were talking about the Ohio State defense, and outside of one play right after halftime, there really was not a whole lot to complain about. So this is going to be a mostly upbeat show, and we're going to start right up front. We'll end up talking about the back end of the defense and some of the different creative things they were doing there, but we got to start up front. The Bobcats had almost no success running against Ohio State almost all night, really. And one of the reasons was the use of something that we have seen a little bit already this season, and that is the penny front.
Yeah, so again, I just kind of want to go through some different concepts, both up front and in the back end, that Matt Patricia has brought to Ohio State. And so again, we saw on Saturday, as you said, a lot of penny front, or Patricia refers to it as a diamond front. You kind of get that diamond look. Ohio State here is in, so you get the five guys up on the line of scrimmage. As you said, Arvell Reese is basically a stand-up outside linebacker with Sonny Styles as the Mike behind the zero tech nose guard. So he's, head up on the center. They're in cover one here. Again, like a lot of principally single high defense, particularly on early down. So, middle field to cover one, cover three. Again, according, Tyler Mann's shout out to, him, follow him on the Ball Almanac. Highly recommend his charting. Appreciate that. He had Ohio State playing cover one 46% of the time and cover three 27% of the time. So again, you continue to see them about, 75% of the time they're in some sort of cover one, cover three, the remainder with split safety coverage. But, he also had them charted for playing penny 36% of the time, which was an uptick. And you get why, because penny's really effective against zone runs. And OU is principally a zone read team. And you can just see here, like, how hard it is to run zone runs against them. So they're in cover one here. You can see, Lorenzo Styles tracking the motion. Jalen McClain follows back against the split. This is an inside split zone, so tight end blocking back. He follows back. But, when you get to the back end, and you can just see, like, every, you have your head up nose guard and then your 2 4-eye techniques sort of between the guard and the tackle. And there's just no double teams, right? Like, the principle of zone is to double and get to the second level. And it just makes it really difficult to get to that second level linebacker. He's pretty much blocked or shielded. And, so he can just step right in the hole and make the play. And, saw that repeatedly against OU. So, penny, again, as I said, like against particularly gap heavy teams, you'll see a lot of it, less effective against gap or counter run plays. And, although I thought Ohio State did a pretty good job defending when Texas ran counter plays against penny, but, you probably see a little bit less usage against a gap heavy team. But, certainly a mainstay part of the Ohio State playbook under Matt Patricia.
They have definitely mixed things up front, and this is an example of where it's going to be a little bit of a different look from the first play, but the same kind of basic result. The run play goes nowhere. Now, one of the things that really helps there is having someone like Caleb Downs on the team. This is one where he starts 13 yards off the line of scrimmage at the snap, and then also somehow manages to make the tackle for loss. That is being aggressive in the run game as a safety, but he does seem to make it work pretty much all the time.
Yeah, obviously, you have guys in the back end that make a lot of this look good. Downs, Arvell Reese, and the like. But again, we're seeing this was sort of I believe the first time I had seen this look from Ohio State, which this is a 3-3-5, right? So we're still in an odd front with the nose guard head up over the center. But now we have 3 linebackers on the field, only 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers who are all off the ball, and then 5 defensive backs. And so, or at least start off the ball, I should say. And then, we see, obviously, what you would think when you see this kind of look is there's some pretty big gaps in the line of scrimmage, right? Particularly to run off tackle between the guard and the tackle. But they handle that by using something we've talked about last year that Ohio State needed to use at times, which is called a heavy technique, right? So this is, again, a mid-zone run to the left. when Bo Atkinson sees that left tackle zone step towards him, he spikes inside, right? So now what was an open B gap is now accounted for by the defensive end. Arvell Reese similarly spikes inside to the C gap against that crack block by the tight end in a slot. And so they're spilling the football, right? So we talked a lot about spilling last year. And so you're going to spill right to Caleb Downs. So obviously, just like Ohio State did in the playoffs last year, like spilling to Caleb Downs is a good idea. And you're forcing the ball to go laterally. But I think, again, like sort of just from a personnel perspective as well, a lot of discussion coming into the season about lack of defensive line depth, particularly inside. Obviously, there was, I think 3 technique remains a little unsettled, where you had Tywone Malone starting in place of Edric Houston on Saturday. But obviously, when you're running fronts like this, it cuts down on the number of reps you need from your defensive interior, right? So here we've only got 1 defensive tackle on the field, the nose guard. Similarly, like we'll show here, a lot of third down looks where they're running these odd fronts and they're playing Caden Curry as a nose guard. So, Caden McDonald has been really good inside. And I I think Will Smith has done a pretty admirable job as well, but at the nose, but like you're both using odd personnel fronts that Matt Patricia's always liked, but also, minimizing personnel deficiencies in certain areas and getting, multiple linebackers on the field here with Peyton Pierce as the third.
And next one, this is something we've talked about a bunch over the years. This is definitely not anything new for Ohio State, but it was something that was very effective on Saturday night, and that is a zone blitz.
Yeah, and so this is where like the variety really started coming in. So I talked about, Ohio State principally single high team. And again, right here, like if you look pre-snap, it looks like they're going to play cover 3, right? Or some kind of cover 1, cover 3, some kind of middle of the field safety coverage. But again, at the snap, the guy who lined up over the slot is going to roll back. The deep safety is going to roll over. Lorenzo Styles, the nickel, is coming off the edge. So we're bringing a 5-man pressure. So that's a zone, and we're playing zone behind it. This is a unique one. I haven't seen it before from Ohio State, but they're playing basically a 4 deep, 2 under. So it's a form of cover 4, right? And you can see the safeties and the corners both turning. They're reading the number 2 receiver. So OU's switching off routes, and so you can trade those off. And so it's a form of quarters where they're matching the routes in the deep and the back end. But again, just different ways to bring pressure. Unlike in the past when Ohio State, when Ryan Day first got here and they were a single high predominant team, like it was single high all the time. And we talked, and it was pretty basic, you knew what you're getting. Here, that like the difference is in like they're mixing things up enough, both with disguise and just concepts, that it just as an opposing quarterback and play caller, you can't be sure what you're going to get.
All right, and now we're going to be talking a little bit more about that back end and some of the ways they're disguising things. The next play, if you are listening and not watching, we're going to be talking about the one where Bo Atkinson kind of comes off the edge and hits Parker Navarro, and he ended up hurting his left hand on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So now again, this is single high, right? But this is a more use of the 3 high safety looks that Jim Knowles used increasingly last year and has obviously used a lot in his time. And then we talked about that. But this is 3 double buzz, which just means, you're going to play the 3 guys dropping back, as you can see. And then you have the 2 safeties both dropping into the hook curl zone. That's what, like 3 buzz. That just means the safety coming down is going to play that hook curl. And then you have 1 linebacker dropping to the curl flat, and then Jermaine Matthews handling the other one. So again, like you're giving this 5 across look. You're going to play 3 buzz. And then, as you said, up front, they use Arvell Reese a lot as a, spy, for lack of a better word. He's basically mirroring the quarterback, like is probably the more technical term for it. And so he's just eyes on the quarterback, and he's kind of, trying to follow him. I think, one of the cliches when defensive coaches come from the NFL is like, how are they going to handle the quarterback, like mobile quarterbacks? And that itself may be kind of passe given, the NFL, you now have the Lamar Jacksons and Josh Allens of the world. But be that as it may, like you can tell, like early on, Ohio State's faced, 3 teams with quarterbacks who could run. And Matt Patricia has obviously put an emphasis on like maintaining rush lane discipline and keeping eyes on the quarterback. So that definitely seems like a point of emphasis in his third down package as well, for as accounting for it in the more standard down run game. So, Arvell Reese, obviously, again, like, players, not plays. Like, it's more effective when you have a player like Arvell Reese who can mirror the quarterback. As you saw, like he was just on Peter Navarro's face all night. But it was, again, so you're doing different things in the back end mixed with that sort of contained rush to a pretty effective rate.
And the last one we're going to go through today, it's another one where it is an Arvell Reese kind of mirrors the quarterback and then breaks on the ball and makes the play happen. This is the one where he broke up the pass, and it was history's most obvious incomplete forward pass, and the refs didn't blow it dead for some reason. And Jackson got his scoop and score. This is another one where you see one look pre-snap, and then they change the picture on the quarterback after right at the snap.
Yeah, this is why I say, like, yes, primarily middle of the field close, but like can't rely on that. You can't rely on your pre-snap picture as a quarterback, which makes things difficult, right? So again, like pre-snap, where looks very much like what I just showed, right? Like cover 3 double buzz, where those two safeties are going to drop down to the hook curl zones. But at the snap, everything rotates and they go to a non-traditional Tampa. And so by that, I just mean like you're running Tampa, but guys are coming from different areas that like you're not having the two safeties as the deep half players. And so you got, Malik Hartford drops to one deep half. Then you have Jermaine Matthews from the nickel going all the way back to another deep half. You have Caleb Downs coming over from the slot to be the Tampa pull runner, right? Which is like, again, your 3 high concept where he's so effective, but getting to it from a very different way. You saw, like, this is just one example. They got to Tampa from all kinds of different crazy alignments and looks on Saturday from pre-snap, bringing downs from a variety of angles. So again, I guess you obviously, like, the caveat is when you're going to do that kind of stuff, like, you have to be really disciplined and like make sure that people are, you have to be very versatile in your roles, right? Like you need to know, everyone needs to know how to play the deep half. Everyone needs to know how to play curl flat and be able to be flexible, positional flexibility, I guess you would say. But so far, Ohio State's been able to effectively do that. And then up front, again, we have an example of, again, using Arvell Reese. This is this odd double mug look that Patricia likes so much on third down, where you have the two, 3 odd, again, a nose guard, putting Caden Curry there, which has been pretty effective, certainly was Saturday as a pass rusher. And then the 2 linebackers walked up over the guards. Again, just not showing your hand, Styles drops. Reese is, again, mirroring the quarterback. Obviously, he tries to scramble, knocks down the ball, as you said, leads to the weird scoop and score that obviously wasn't, where then Navarro tries to sweep kick the leg of Kenyatta Jackson that somehow also was not noticed. But in any event, again, so you kind of know what you're getting in broad strokes from this defense, but you're getting it in a lot of different ways. And so, as you said, other than the one Lorenzo Styles where it was cover 1 and, he got beat and then didn't get the tackle. I mean, that was just pretty straightforward, like slot fade. You obviously don't want to have that happen, but that's more just like a cleaning up technique thing, less on the scheme, more on just, making play on the ball and then getting a guy to the ground.
When you're talking about all the stuff that they've sort of, they had to get these guys really on the same page and make sure everyone understands all these different roles, it seems like that would have been a much easier thing to do when you were in your second or third year as Ohio State's defensive coordinator, as Jim Knowles was in previous years. And they're mixing up the fronts this year, and they're disguising the coverages this year, and they're doing all this different stuff that obviously took a lot of time over the summer, which you would sort of instinctively think, okay, your first year as a defensive coordinator, you're going to have so much more stuff to install, get everyone sort of on the same page with more of the basics. So what made it possible for Matt Patricia to do this when Jim Knowles didn't do this stuff the last couple of years? I mean, it's not like Jim Knowles had bad defenses the last couple of years. He had great defenses the last couple of years. But why are they able to do this stuff now and it didn't necessarily show up on the field the last couple of years as much?
So you have 2 issues, right? The first is you have to want to do it as a defensive coach. And as I said, I mean, at least theoretically, there are trade-offs, right? Like disguise can lead to people being in bad positions. You're racing over from different places. So at least in theory, you're trading some potential soundness in the coverage and scheme for disguise, right? Now, as I said, so far, so good on that front in terms of like in practice, Ohio State's really minimized that. Helps having, really good athletes in the back end that can cover ground. So that's the first thing, is just like you have to want to do it. The second is like, the calls themselves though it's not like the volume is crazy on the defense in terms of what they're running, there was actually floating around on Twitter, like someone got a screenshot of Caleb Downs' wristband post the game against Grambling, and like you could see the play calls, and the play calls themselves are like pretty straightforward. Like most of it you can trace back to like Patricia's time with the Patriots in terms of like the fronts and the coverage. And, at the end of the day, they're running, as I said, mostly like cover 1, cover 3, cover 2 mixed in with like the occasional quarters or quarter half. So it's more on the players then to just be able to like run those different techniques within those coverage schemes, right? Like sometimes I got to play the deep third, sometimes I got to play the hook curl, and like I got to know where I'm coming from and know how to execute those. So again, it's like you have to have the want to do it, and then it makes it so that it looks more complex for the offense than it actually is for the defense. So long as as I said, like the different back seven, or even when a defensive end is dropping in a sim pressure, like defenders know how to run the various techniques that comes with each zone drop or man coverage.
All right, well, there you go. 1/4 of the way through Ohio State's 2025 regular season. Things looking so far so good for Matt Patricia. We'll get a little bit of a different challenge coming up next weekend out in Seattle. Buckeyes headed out to Seattle to take on the Washington Huskies. That'll be a 3:30 Eastern kick on Saturday next week. That'll be the CBS game. We'll be out there covering that for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Got our whole team of insiders covering the Buckeyes, covering recruiting, covering X's and O's, all to make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And thanks again to our sponsors, Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.